Fox News alert, it's 8 o'clock and polls have closed in New Jersey. The Fox News decision desk believes the governor's race in the Garden State is close. Democratic candidate Mikey Sherrill leads. The Fox News decision desk can also project that Democrat Abigail Spanberger will become the next governor of Virginia. Spanberger defeats Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. Let's bring in Fox News chief political anchor Bret Baier and the anchor of The Story, Martha MacCallum. Were you surprised, Bret, that that was called early?
No, you know, it's a purple state, but it's bluish purple. Winsome Earl Sears did close the gap heading into Election Day, but, you know, there was a Democratic push. She was a decent candidate to begin with. She had some stumbles because of the Attorney General's race, which, by the way, we haven't called yet, Jay Jones, although he is seeing increase in the polls, the numbers that we're seeing. But because of that, I think there was a stumble and a belief that Winsome Earl Sears could close the gap. Too little, too late. And Abigail Spanberger will become the first female governor of the Commonwealth. She was the person that Democrats said, listen, this is a moderate. She's going to be the example for Democrats going forward. Republicans said she wasn't a moderate. She voted with Nancy Pelosi almost all the time. And but she will become the next Virginia governor.
But this race for AG, where the guy says that he wanted to kill Republican kids, we can't call that yet. Are you surprised that we haven't been able to call that yet? I mean, most people that I know would say, heck no with a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a percentage of Virginia voters who said that they found those comments concerning, but not disqualifying. And we saw that Spanberger really tried to just sort of sidestep this whole issue. She was pressed upon to say that he should drop out of the race. I mean, it really, really lowers the bar for what is required. I mean, think about the fact that Joe Biden once dropped out of a presidential race because there was some plagiarism in a speech that he gave. But this guy says that, you know, this family should be killed, and that the children are fascists and they should be killed too. But, you know, the bar for all these things has changed
and the guy
dramatically.
With the Nazi tattoo hasn't dropped out.
You know, I mean,
the bar is so low now, you can basically do anything and stay in the race.
She was asked about 4 times in that debate, will you pull your endorsement? She didn't. And it was the easiest, one would think, layup to, in a political race, say, yes, I pull my endorsement. It's time to move on. But she was, you know, it was like an albatross around her neck for the rest of that race, and that's why it was so close in the end. She is going to pull this out in a decent majority, margin rather, and Democrats are going to feel good about this. I think they have less to feel good about in New Jersey, which looks like it's tightening.
All right, so it's tight in New Jersey. This is a state that Harris, I think, beat Donald Trump by about 6 points. He didn't spend any money there. And this guy, Chitterelli, had done well last time against the incumbent, Bill Murphy. It's too close to call. What does that tell you?
Well, this is the 3rd time that Jack Chitterelli has run for governor. The first time he didn't make it through the primary. The second time, as you pointed out, he came within 3 points of Phil Murphy. Nobody has held the same party governorship in New Jersey since 1961, which would indicate, you know, the historical trend is that it's time for it to flip to the GOP this time around. We've certainly had a number of Republican governors in New Jersey, but this is very close. And Sherrill, you know, also weathered a bit of a storm when it came to the cheating scandal at Annapolis. Chitterelli really tried to hang that on her in a negative light. Whether or not it stuck, we don't know yet.
And the insider trading allegations, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wasn't very graceful in wiggling out of those. What are your people in New Jersey telling us, Martha?
Our people in New Jersey. You know, I mean, I do sort of, you know, I go running around town. I see where the signs are. It is interesting. In areas that are, you know, sort of working class neighborhoods in New Jersey, you have seen a lot of Chitterelli signs. It has felt that he had the momentum, but whether or not, you know, the New Jersey machine will prevail tonight, that's what we're about to find out.
And we had Barack Obama had to fly in all the way from Hawaii to save both of these women.
That's right. He went to Virginia and to New Jersey. He did not go to New York City.
But he did make a phone call.
He did make a phone call, said he was really, you know, touching on important issues, but didn't do an official endorsement. I think, obviously, the big race that has sucked up all the oxygen is the mayor's race here in New York City. And that could maybe have an effect in New Jersey because people in New Jersey look at New York City and say what happens there could mean something for us.
Do you really think that if Mamdani wins, that it could have repercussions in New Jersey, Martha? You know New Jersey better than any of us here at this table.
It's true. She
Well,
does.
we both live there, but you and I both live there.
I was born there. I just want to say.
Okay, good.
He's also he
Jersey's
has
strong.
Jersey roots as well. You know, it's interesting to see if you get a counterbalance vote. If people in New Jersey sort of turn out to try to balance Mamdani in the mayor's race. I also think that the other person who's watching this very closely is Elise Stefanik, because I think if Mamdani wins in New York, she may feel, Hochul wants to be governor, to stay governor there, but Mamdani didn't even endorse Hochul.
Right.
She endorsed him, and he won't endorse her because she refuses to raise taxes in this state, which is going to be a problem for
So
him.
we're not giving Mamdani the win, but if he does win, Bret, what kind of damage, if he teams up with Kathy Hochul, could those two do in the state of New York?
So interestingly, the New York City mayor doesn't have as much power as the New York governor.
Right.
So she would almost be a check, if she wanted to be, to the New York City mayor.
Does she want to be?
You know, when she was on that stage, it didn't look like it when she was holding up his hand, but she has said to other people and reporters that that's what she would do. It's not good enough. If he does win, and we don't know, I mean, who knows? Those polls close at 9 p.m. We'll see. It's the biggest turnout we've seen in 2 decades in New York City for a mayor's race. So, that could mean good things for Cuomo. But if he wins, Hochul will be in a much weakened position against the Republican nominee, likely Stefanik.
And are you thinking people in New York City are calculating this? Well, I don't like Cuomo, but I might have to vote for him to stop Mamdani. How much of that calculation is happening?
Well, I think one of the biggest questions is that percentage of Sliwa voters, because Trump came out and said, look, I don't really like either of these main candidates, but if you should go for the worst Democrat rather than the communist, is what the president said. So those Sliwa voters had to make a decision today when they went to the polls and figure out if they wanted to pull the lever for Sliwa or if they were going to go over and do what the president asked them to do and vote for Cuomo. So watch the Sliwa margins. Staten Island is obviously a big the only big conservative stronghold in New York City. If his margins are lower there than they were last time around, that's something to keep an eye on.
Does the pseudo endorsement by Donald Trump of Andrew Cuomo help Andrew Cuomo in a city like New York where they just tried to throw this president in prison? This guy's like, oh, this is your guy. And then Mamdani says, well, look, Donald Trump's endorsing my opponent.
Yeah, it did give Mamdani a talking point ahead of Election Day, but it also may move some Sliwa voters off to vote for Cuomo. So the balance there is interesting to factor in. I think it was late. It might have been earlier. Cuomo had to absorb a day of, look, he's Donald Trump's endorsed candidate. But at the same time, it probably moves some Sliwa voters.
All right, we'll see how it shakes out pretty soon. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.